Morning, Saturday the 10th of December 2022. I've got the kettle on and it's been that cold I've had to do this. This is a tip I've showed before, but you need to be careful and watch what you're doing. But it does work very well. So you need to keep checking the temperature of this can. And what you have to do is when that gets slightly warm, you swap over, because the pressure drops in these in the gas cans immensely in this kind of weather, and you get hardly any flame at all. So the kettle's boiled, we're going to get a cup of coffee, and then today we're going to be doing the diesel heater. Right, we now have a nice warm cup of coffee to warm our hands up with, and like I said, it's a great tip, because what will happen is when you put a cold can in there, you'll get a little wee tiny flame. But if you sit one on top of the kettle, any little bit of heat that you do get will gently warm the can. And then once the can gets a little bit warmer, you can then take out the cold one, put it on the top, and put this one in there, and that will give you a slightly bigger flame until you get that one warmed up, and keep going like that. And it is a way to eventually get the kettle boiled. If you didn't do that, you would just sit forever waiting for a cup of coffee, basically. We now have a cup of coffee in pretty much normal, regular time. You can see how cold it is. This is the neem oil. It's a solid block. And you can possibly see my condensation and the steam coming off of the cup of coffee. So today, let's move on and put a bit of light on the subject. There we go. Today, as promised, we're going to be unboxing this diesel heater. We'll get it up on the bench and have a look at it, and then we'll go about getting this put into production. Right, as promised, we're going to do the diesel heater unboxing today. I think it's about -1 or even -2 inside this shed, and it's relatively mild compared to what it is outside. So I've had this diesel heater over 12 months, and it's sat in the corner there, and I've never ever had the time, with the ill health and all the rest of it, just never ever got round to doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it unboxed, and hopefully we're going to get it set up. So I'll just give you a little look at this. This is the diesel heater in question. There's many different makes and models on the market, and when I purchased this, I think it was £85, but they're going up in price now quite astronomically. But they're still a very cost-effective way of heating, and some people have even put these into their house. And as long as you plan it carefully and site it outside and make sure there's no fumes coming into the house, I don't see any reason why it isn't a fantastic alternative, especially with the price of fuel these days. So without further ado, we'll get cracking, we'll get it unboxed. You'll have to excuse the mess in the shed because it's as tidy as it can be, but yes, I still have a bit of tidying up to do. So, inside the box, we have an air intake. We have a short exhaust, but I've purchased an extension exhaust. So remember, these are add-ons. I purchased all these last year, but that's the first exhaust that it comes with. So depending on where you're siting it, this could be long enough for your needs. You may not need to purchase any extras. I just did because I'd watched a few YouTubes previously, and one or two people advised it, and I didn't know exactly how or where I'm going to be siting this just yet. So we got the extension just in case we need it, and if we don't and this corrodes, we've got a fallback exhaust. So we've got an air intake, we have an exhaust, and then of course the all important part is your heat out. And this can be stretched. As you can see, I'm just stretching it out a bit now, so you can make it a little longer. It doesn't give you a great amount of length, but you can purchase these and the connectors, which can pretty much, you could have it running the full length of a shed, and this itself would act as an heat exchanger to give you some heat out, and of course the blowing, the main heat coming out of the end. Or you could have T-pieces in with short pipes out right through the full length and get extra heat that way. Bearing in mind, that the heat will travel full length, and it's going to come more out of the first entrance, but it will find its way up and it will still provide extra heat. That's that. So that's pretty much what you get, plus the unit itself. So here we have the air intake filter, numerous Jubilee clips and mounts, etc., nuts and bolts. And then this is the unit itself. Now it's totally different. I'm just looking, it's totally different to what I've just showed you on the picture on the book. That's what it looked like on the book. And this is the actual unit. It looks even neater. That's it there. It looks a lovely little portable device. Now, it's not as tall as the red ones. It's probably the same width, but it's much shorter and much lower as well. You have a little slot cut in here. That's what we'll show you what that's for going forward. That's to so you can get a screwdriver in to put the Jubilee clips in on the exhaust, etc. Comes with a warning sticker, as most dangerous items will do. On the back of the unit we have the fan, which blows the hot air across the actual diesel heater and out the other side. Then we have a nice length of flex with a fuse, an inline fuse, and your positive and your negative out. And the beauty about this is it runs on car batteries, leisure batteries, etc. And I have a number of leisure batteries. Anybody who's watched any of my solar videos will know these lights, they run in water, and pretty much everything I'm using in here at the moment, it's going to be fitted out with 240 volt electricity as well. But at the moment, everything I'm running on free energy from the solar panel stored in all of these batteries. I've had a request as well to do a very, very basic layman terms solar panel install again. The very, very basics. For at least 2 YouTubers. So thanks for the request, and I will try to squeeze that in for you, and we'll do it in a very simplistic way that hopefully you will understand, so you can utilize the equipment that you've purchased. Hopefully that may be done tomorrow. So you have your 12 volt cable in. You can get them in 12 volt and 24 volt these, and you can even get them on that runs on the mains now with a drop down transformer. But I wanted specifically the 12 volt version, which is what we purchased. On top of here, you've obviously got your fuel tank, which sits on top of the unit. All in a lovely little case. There's your fuel gauge for your fuel tank, so you can see how much fuel you have left on this particular model here. And on here, it tells us what the voltage is, and it does tell us a bit more information, but I haven't got my glasses. Where's my glasses at? I can't see. Right. You don't laugh. These are Poundland specials, but they just help me to be able to see what I need to be able to see. How about that? Right. So it tells us it's a car parking heater. The fuel is diesel. It tells me the model, which is, in this case, it's an XMZ-D1. And then we've got voltage. It's 12 volts, and when it first starts up, it pulls 40 watts from the battery. Once it gets up to temperature, that drops significantly. So don't be too afraid about saying, oh, well, the battery's going to be drained in seconds, because it's not the case. And this particular one is only a 5 kilowatt one. They do them in 8s and 12s and all sorts. But I figured that 5 kilowatts would be sufficient. And first impressions, this is a nicely made little unit. Now, I could take this all apart, like most YouTubers, and show you the internals, but I'm not going to do that because it's going to run on too long. And this one is unlike some of the others, which is just 2 clips on each side and you can lift the cover off. This one is screwed all round, so there's a load of screws to take out. So I'm not going to do that. I probably will have a look at it at some point myself, but for now, we're going to just take it out the box and hopefully get it up and running. On the front panel, you'll see It comes with a remote control. You've got your heater display to show you what the unit is doing, and here you've got your exhaust out, which is just hot air basically. It's just hot air that comes out of there. There's no fumes comes out of there, it's just hot air. So technically speaking, you hook it up and you get hot air when you put a bit of diesel in it. Now they can be run on waste oil, they can be run on kerosene, and there's all sorts of YouTube videos out there that shows you all the different fuels they can be run on, including waste vegetable oil, all sorts. But people are quickly cottoning on, and now even the waste fuels are getting priced up. On the underside of the unit, we have, here is the air intake, the one with the fuel line closest to it. So the fuel line is, it's easy to identify. The fuel line that's closest to this one is your air intake, and the one furthest away from the fuel line is your exhaust. And basically the exhaust pipe goes on there, and we can put a Jubilee clip on first. Obviously get a screwdriver through there, we can nip it up. Now then, I have also pre-staged this by purchasing some Holt's exhaust assembly paste. Now there's many different types of paste, but it's a sealant basically, and it dries rock hard, if anyone knows what this is about. And basically what it does, it creates a lovely seal from here around this collar so that we don't get any exhaust fume leaks. And that's all that's for. So likewise, if you join an extension exhaust on, we'll put some in there, and when you sandwich the two together and then seal around the edges, you'll get a really tight seal that shouldn't leak any exhaust fumes. Now, this isn't a professional instructional video, this is just showing you what I'm doing. So anything that you do yourself is at your own risk, and I take no responsibility. This is just how I'm doing it. I'm trying to give best advice, but I can't promise that your scenario will work the same. That's something you'll need to do yourself. So what I also purchased was some exhaust mounting clips I've got up here. I bought extra fuel line and filters and all sorts up here, and I bought some good quality Jubilee clips in various sizes, and if I can, I'll put some links to all of these parts down in the video if I think on. So technically that's your exhaust out. This is your air intake. Now there's several ways of doing the air intake, and that is, some people keep the air intake inside the shed where it's warm, and that makes perfect sense as long as you're not sucking fumes in as well, and the exhaust is outside or down through your floor, which is what I intend to do, is to put this exhaust straight down through the floor and outside of the side of the shed. And the most likely place that I'm going to mount this, I haven't exactly came up with where I'm going to go with it, but it's looking like it's going to go out in the dry area, as I call it, where I do the potting on of the seeds and everything. And there's multiple possibilities where we could have out of the exhaust, or out of the air intake, I could have a T-piece so that one piece is outside in the what I call the dry area, and one comes through the wall into here to heat the inside of the shed. And ideas I'm toying with, but I probably won't put into practice just because of the cost and the practicality, but it's something you might want to think about, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, and of course that will go on here, and that's what blows out your heat. And as I say, you can modify that, you can put T-pieces in, bends in them, all sorts. And in our packet, it's a bit ironic that they've sent me these instructions for this model. They're probably all the same, they all work on the same principle. They take fuel in, they burn it on a diesel glow plug, they push out the fumes, out of the exhaust. They take in clean air on here and they blow out warm air from with the fan on the back blows the warm air across the cylinder and out the front. So they all work on the same principle. So given the instructions, I'm going to assume they're all much of a muchness. And this here is basically a filter that does appear to come apart, but again, I'm not going to strip it. I want to get the job done. And this clips on. It doesn't like that end. There shouldn't be anything to worry about. This is if you're mounting it outside, more or less, to be perfectly honest. But if it's staying inside, the worst thing you're going to suck in there is a bit of dust out of the shed, perhaps. But yeah, and again, this stretches and gives you just a little bit more length than what it is when it comes out of the box. You can stretch this a little bit, and about double the length. Right, so that's enough rambling. I don't want this to drag on too long, as I say. We'll flick it back over. We'll give you a quick look at the front of the unit, closer up, so you can see. So basically we have a digital display here that tells you what's going on in there. We have a little remote control, which I need to fathom out how to pair to. That's if there's even a battery in it, I don't know. But you can manually operate from here if the remote control, if we can't get it paired up. Okay, so let me have a think about this. I don't know whether to just do a quick test run out in the dry area where there's plenty of ventilation where fumes will escape, just as a dummy run to get it up and running before, and check that it works before I actually fix it in place, mount it up correctly, drill holes through the floor to drop down the exhaust, etc. I'm thinking we can just crack the door open, stick the exhaust outside or something like that, just to do a dummy test on it and see how things go. Now, some of these come with a little exhaust baffler that goes on the end, but apparently they're pretty much useless. This one doesn't. It hasn't came with that. So what I'm going to do is have a little read through the instructions and see. I know it's simple enough to set up, but we'll have a little look and see what we can do about getting this fired up and get some heat in here. Right, so we're out here in what I call the dry area, which is not quite so dry at the moment, but here we go. So here we've got some diesel. Yes, it's in a petrol can, but it's brand new, both brand new. They didn't have any diesel cans. I put clean diesel into here. This will be labelled up with an indelible marker so I know the difference. I've smelt it and double checked. I bought this some time ago to double check it is diesel, and it is diesel. So we're going to run this on what it was designed for, which is diesel to start with, before we do any testing with other fuels. So let's get it topped up. I've got about a quarter of a tank in there, and that's probably still half full or something like that. But apparently these run really well on very little fuel, and they're very cost effective. So sorry if I keep disappearing out of the camera. Right, let's get that out of the way. You can see the diesel heater again. Now, the reason I've put it here is because I can get the exhaust down there basically and just leave it out and trail it towards the door where the fumes will up and out of the door. But I do have a carbon monoxide meter which I'm going to get as well, just to make sure I'm not killing me daft self. Yeah, I need the intake and the exhaust. Right. So here I have a carbon monoxide alarm, and I highly recommend you use one of these if you're going to be using one of these in a semi-indoor structure like this. So the first thing we'll do is we'll get the, I'm not going to put any fix and paste on the exhaust yet. We want to see if it works first, and it'll only be run for a short period of time. And I'll get outside if things go wrong so that I can breathe. And we're just going to basically Jubilee clip on them, get them nipped up, make them relatively tight, and then we can get on with having a go to see how it works. Right, sorry about that guys. I've ended up having to do quite a bit, and again it's all just done with Jubilee clips at the moment, but it's actually started up. Now, because I couldn't make head and tail of the instructions, be aware of that when you buy these. I was delighted to find out the remote control already had a battery and was paired to the unit, so that's a massive bonus. Some of these have to have the remote control paired up to the unit. So we've got the diesel in, and you can possibly hear a bit of clunking in the background. That's the diesel pump priming the heater for the first time. And what we've done is we've hooked it up to this, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this display, so we can see what power is being drawn from the battery. But you can see the battery is good. The LED in there is green, which tells us our battery is still good. And as I say, I bought this brand new. It's a 120 amp leisure battery this. I've had it a couple of years, but it's been constantly on charge with the solar, and it was on charge and fully topped up before we started this project. So here I've got the Jubilee clipped on as well under the bench. This is the air intake. This is our exhaust out, and I can feel the fan blowing at the moment, cold air. You can probably just hear this starting to ramp up now, and I'm sorry I missed the start, but basically this is the display. Now P3.6 I'm assuming is the power. I'm trying to get this so I can get the best view on it. I'm not sure if this is Wi-Fi as well, but I think that's power 3.6. I think they go from 1.5 to 4, and that's not good. I didn't touch that display. It's decided to clunk out on me. That battery cannot be that drained unless it's because it's so cold. And of course that's not good when a diesel heater is in the middle of priming itself. Unless it just hasn't got the fuel through yet, because it has to. There is a way to prime these prior before you use them. So I'm now going to link up another battery to this. So we've got two batteries in series. Right, so what we've done here now is we've put a second battery to this one, and we've got the blue wire going to the blue wire and the brown to the brown. So this is the positive side and negative side, and that basically gives us two batteries now at whatever state they're in to try and get this fired up. We're probably going to have to take these home and give them a proper charge on the charger, or fire the generator up and give them a good charge that way. However, the generator is too far away from this project at the moment, and we've no electrics running to here yet, so we've got to work with what we've got. I probably should have charged these up just to get them going. So we're going through the sequence again now, and this is the power, because I've actually turned it up with the remote. But you can see we've got E01. It's an error basically, and I think we still, even with both batteries, don't have sufficient power. So we're going to have to conclude this video another time. Right, so after a real fight, and I'm not sure why, but a couple of conclusions, we've finally got it running. And I'm feeling warm air starting to come out of here now, so it has ignited. And there's a lot of heat coming out of the exhaust. I've now threw the door wide open. But you can see I've got the carbon monoxide meter here as well, ready. Oh, that is lovely. And you can see we're going now. You can hear the fan kicking up, and you can hear everything running nicely now. What I had to do was to reduce the power level to 1.4, which is its lowest setting to start with. And I think that was the error that I was making. The battery is good, and we're only on one battery. And basically I had to turn that right down to its lowest setting. And I've got some lovely heat coming out of here now, guys. Right. So I just simply turn down the power with this little remote, and of course once the fuel is ignited and these get up to temperature, they consume much less power on the battery. The other thing I think may have been impounding this is I took off the meter. I took that out of the equation, and I've got the battery terminals now from this with the inline fuse, which is only 12 volts, nothing to worry about. And I took power direct to the positive of the battery and negative to the negative of the battery. Turned it back on and it went first shot. The pump primed. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but I think that's our diesel level here. So we've got half a tank in there at least. Oh, the heat is beautiful. You can see how cold it is, guys. Everything's still frozen out there. But the heat on this is beautiful. So now we know the unit works, we can go on and get it installed correctly. And what's going to happen is it's going to go down in here with the exhaust through the floor and out the back away from the shed. And I've got a special heat block that will show you when we come to do the installation. I'm now not going to do the installation today, so it's going to be in 2 installs. But I basically wanted to just show you, but also I'm going to take these 2 batteries home and put them on a charger just to make sure. I've got a funny feeling when I put them on the actual charger they'll still read good, and I'm thinking now that either that was causing the problem, which is the voltmeter basically, which shows what we're doing, but you can hear the heater starting to slow down now. So you can hear the pump, the ticking sound in the background is slowing down, and there's still loads of lovely heat coming off here. So we've reached temperature basically, and what it does is it puts itself into economy mode. Loads of heat coming from the exhaust. Don't ever touch that, guys, goes without saying. So you can hear it's slowing down to almost nothing, but it's blowing a lovely amount of heat out of there. So let's crank it up a bit. And as I'm doing this, you can hear the pump picking up again. It knows I want more power. I'm going to stick it at 3.3 in case we drain the battery, because it's going to draw on the battery again now. Hopefully the battery's going to hold out to let us see just what kind of heat this will throw. So we'll let that get up to temperature and come back. Right, we just turned this up to power level 5, which I think is the 5 kilowatt. As you can see, the battery seems to still be good. It's not flashing, which I'm led to believe it will flash when the battery is struggling. It does appear to be Wi-Fi, so I'll need to do a bit more reading up on this model. And that appears to be a timer. You can set the clock time, get it to switch on automatically, etc. The other symbols is the fan and the glow plugs. I'm not sure what they all mean. The 16 I think is the 16 minutes it's been running, and it was 1 degree in here on the temperature gauge when I first started this up, and now you can see it's 3.7. so it's only been running 16 minutes and it's really only getting up the temperature, and this is going to be a real asset. Sorry about the focusing, guys, but yeah. What's more, I'm led to believe even without having a trickle charge on the battery, especially one this size, you can get about 8 hours on a battery that's in good nick, of course. This is brand new and it's had very little use, and as I say, it's been constantly topped up on the charger. And I'm now convinced the problem was by hooking up that meter and having it at a too high a power level initially to get it heated up. It will be getting mounted correctly, so that all I need to do when I walk in here is press that remote on there, aim it down there, and it will start up at will. The only thing you've got to remember with these guys is never kill the power on them. When you've got to turn it off and let it go through its cycle of cooling down. Never ever just unclip the crocodile clips and take away its power source, or you will cause problems with the unit. So now I know it's working, but I'm not sure of the state of the battery. I'm now going to run this machine down. Right, so I've now turned off the unit. It came up on the display saying off, and then I could hear the fans starting to run down slowly. You'll now hear there's no ticking from the pump, the diesel pump, and it's basically going through a cooling down phase. I suppose I could have been a bit more better prepared for this. I didn't know what to expect, and you don't when you do these. Basically unboxed it, but we showed you some faults, which is a good thing, and I learned something. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I know it's been a bit lengthy, but as promised, someone might find this useful. Now, there's a lot of different practical uses you could use this for, depending on whether you want to throw fuel at this, whether we can get it to run on wasted oil, cheaper alternatives, etc, etc, etc. We'll probably do some videos down the line on that. But technically you could, depending on your allotment, even if you can't heat your polytunnel or your greenhouse with it, because I'm led to believe you can set these to come on and off as well on the thermal temperature, so when the temperature drops it kicks in, and then when it's up to temperature again it knocks itself off. Now then, so that's something we need to look at, but technically speaking in this dry area I have here, we could set it up to do something like that. However, I'm not a one for growing plants too soon, as everybody knows, and I just don't think the effort and energy that's invested in the first place is worth a few seedlings to get a week or two start. I really don't believe, me personally, I don't believe it's worth the effort or the cost. I would much rather, if push come to shove, if I was falling behind in the season, I'd go down the garden centre and buy a few plants. It's just a hobby at the end of the day. But yeah, hopefully somebody's found this useful. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the sections down below. I'll try and answer your questions. If there's something you want an update on around the diesel heater, a bit more detailed instruction, I'll try to provision better next time. Hope you enjoyed it, guys, and as always, by the way, there is a very, very basic, simple solar panel instruction coming out to show you the very, very basics, so the people, I find there's some people still out there that struggle to just understand the very basic concept of the wiring up. So we'll try and put that to rights in another video, perhaps even tomorrow, depending on what crops up and what doesn't. I'm still very busy at home, but let's see what we can do for you. As always, wherever you are in the world, guys, please stay safe, be practical, keep yourselves out of harm's way. Thanks again for watching. And don't forget to like, dislike and subscribe if you aren't already. We'll see you again in the next video. Right, so I brought this battery down and we put it on charge, but as you can see, it already was still good. Obviously the more charge it goes in, it goes this way to zero. And it wasn't that far out really, to be honest with you. So it was good. And we can see the battery is in good nick. So the solar panel has been keeping that topped up, but either way we'll give it a boost of a little trickle charge overnight. As you can see, we're on trickle charge. We don't want to boost it or anything, and obviously when the amber light goes green we'll be fully charged. So, and that's probably only been taking out what the diesel heater used in that short period of time it was on. But we'll give it a boost anyways on the power supply, and then we'll be good to go.